If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Hey there, welcome everyone. I'm James Yodice. I am the high school preps editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome to Preps Central, the Journal's high school sports podcast. Good talking with you. It is Wednesday, the 15th, as I sit here and visit with you here at the studio here on the Journal campus. We're going to talk a lot of high school football, as always. We're already into week 9 of the regular season in football, and there are only 11, so we only have 3 weekends left of regular season in the upper classes. And we're coming off Week 8. We're going to talk about some of the top Week 8 results, and we're going to preview some of the top games here in Week 9, including the big game in Class 5A between number 1 Artesia and number 2 Roswell. They are playing at Wool Bowl in Roswell on Friday night. My two guests today are the head coaches of those two teams, Jeremy Maupin from Artesia, Jeff Lynn from Roswell. So I did interviews with them a little bit earlier today that we're going to show for you during the podcast. Yeah, we're getting into the meat of it now. So many key games coming up in every class, really. And we're going to start in 6A. The big game in 6A this weekend is Volcano Vista against Rio Rancho, who play on Friday night out at Community Stadium. You know, and I'm not trying to give anybody anything, but Cleveland remains the best team in this district, District 1 6A. So quite frequently, this game, the Rio Rancho Volcano game, ends up being for second place in that district. So we're going to see how that shakes out. Volcano coming off a win over Farmington up in the Four Corners last week. Rio Rancho beat Piedra Vista also in the Four Corners. Rio Rancho played on Thursday, so they've had an extra day to prepare for this one. Cleveland continues to lead the district. They beat Cibola 27-6 last weekend. Cleveland plays Piedra Vista this week, and Cibola plays Farmington on Saturday here in the metro area. The big game that we're talking about from last weekend, there were two, really. The one here in the metro area was the game I covered on Friday night. La Cueva essentially clinched the District 2 6A championship. They beat Las Lunas 54-35. That game really wasn't even as close as the final score would tell you. Las Lunas picked up some scores at the end of the game. La Cueva led that game 44-14 at one point. So La Cueva basically clinches the district title. La Cueva would have to lose 2 of its last 3 games against Albuquerque High or Santa Fe or Trisco Heritage to lose the title, and Las Lunas would have to win out to do that. So that's not going to happen, with all due respect to those schools. So La Cueva sets itself up now for a good chance to be a top 4 seed for the playoffs, which, of course, gets you a first-round bye. So that's a big deal. La Cueva, I think, is going to be, at this point, a 4 or a 5. Hobbs is certainly in the mix. Hobbs beat Centennial last week 44-33. That was a big result. That district is a little bit like District 1. You have one team, Las Cruces, that's above everybody else. Hobbs and Centennial generally are thought of as the next 2 best teams. So Hobbs wins, and we still have Carlsbad in the mix in the sense that Carlsbad's actually, as we speak here today, Carlsbad's in second place in this district by itself. They are 3-1. I believe Hobbs is 2-1. So Carlsbad still has Las Cruces to play, and Carlsbad at the end of the year is going to have a mammoth game against Hobbs, their big rival. So that district is still unsettled. I still think Hobbs at this point is the second best team in that district, ahead of Carlsbad, even though Carlsbad's won one extra game. That's only because their bye weeks are different. So Hobbs' victory over Centennial gives the Eagles that big win. It gives the Eagles that big win that Coach Ken Stevens is always talking about that will help them get to that next level. You know, Hobbs has been a regular quarterfinal team in the state playoffs. They desperately want to break through that wall and get into a semifinal round at least. And they've been knocking. They just haven't really had a favorable postseason bracket to get them there. So this is a big step for Hobbs. So if Hobbs wins out, Hobbs will be no worse than a top 4 seed because Hobbs still has to play, as I say, Carlsbad at the end of the year. So we're going to see how that plays out. There's a lot that could still happen, but I like Hobbs' chances to finish as the second team behind Cruces in that district. That might be enough to get them a top 4 seed for the playoffs, possibly. Volcano's going to be in that mix, I think. Although Volcano beat La Cueva head-to-head to start the year, that's going to be a big help for Volcano. If Volcano finishes 8-2, which means they would split their 2 games against Rio Rancho and Cleveland, Volcano should be no doubt a slam dunk top 4 seed. That would leave sort of La Cueva and Hobbs as the 4 and 5 seeds, I think. So we're going to see how that plays out. But La Cueva, they basically closed out District 2-6A. Now their big deal is they've got to just stay motivated and healthy, because I don't expect they're going to get a whole lot of tests coming down the stretch. So we've seen this before with La Cueva in their district, where they basically clinch things early, and then they've got to find a way to stay hungry and motivated going forward. And I think the prospect of being a top 4 seed will do that for the Bears, because they know full well that they're in a fight. And like I said, I think Hobbs is the one team that could snatch a top 4 seed away from La Cueva. So La Cueva's got to be sure to close out its season. They've won 5 in a row, and we'll see how it goes. Now, if somehow Carlsbad beats Hobbs on the last weekend of the season, I think that will cement a top 4 seed for La Cueva for sure. And then the other teams in District 3, like Carlsbad, like Hobbs, like Centennial, are all going to be probably in that 5 through 8 seed range, which would get them a first-round home game, which is good. But, of course, you want to get that top 4 seed, if at all possible, just because of the bye week. Class 5A, almost every team in 5A, there are 16 teams in 5A. 14 of them had the week off last week. Mira played Belen, and that's only because they were scheduled to play several weeks back and got postponed, and so they rescheduled it for last Friday. The other 14 teams in Class 5A all had their bye week last week. So, as I noted, we're talking about Artesia and Roswell coming up this weekend at Woolbowl in Roswell, which is going to be the headliner game by far. Class 4A is where a good chunk of the action is this weekend for me. Matter of fact, I'm going to be covering a pair of 4A games on Friday. So you've got matchups. You got 6 of the top 7 teams in Class 4A playing each other this weekend. So that starts with number 7 Silver is playing number 6 Academy. That's a Friday afternoon game at 3:00. Academy's hosting a big cross-country meet on Saturday, and they don't have lights, so they're playing it on Friday afternoon. Friday night, I'm going to be at that game at Academy. Friday night, I'll be in Bernalillo. Number 1 ranked Bloomfield is in town to play Bernalillo. Those teams played in the state semifinals last November. Bernalillo's ranked number 5. And then Saturday afternoon, Chaparral, ranked number 3, is up here in Albuquerque to play number 2 St. Pius. That game is at Milne, 2:00 on Saturday. So you've got almost all the really good teams in 4A playing each other this weekend. Chaparral had a tough loss. They lost 21-13 to Silver, who was in last place in the district. Silver was 0-3 in the district, 7th out of 7 teams. And then Silver came up with its biggest win of the year. They beat Chaparral, who was ranked number 2 in the state, 21-13. So once again, we have a game in this district. Excuse me. We have a game in this district that has really changed things. We saw Portales as an unranked team beat up on Valencia several weeks back. I think Valencia was number 4 at the time. We had Academy, who was unranked, beat number 2 St. Pius the week before. I think it was 49-36. And now we have Silver, who was winless in district, beating the number 2 team in the state, Chaparral. So this district has been very unpredictable, volatile. It's been awesome to watch, honestly. There are still a handful of teams that could win this district depending on how the last 3 weeks go. So Class 4A is really where the key games are in the metro area this week, aside from that Rio Rancho Volcano Vista game that I mentioned. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I'm going to be at the 2 games on Friday and a little bit of the Chaparral Pius game on Saturday. So having said all that and kind of set the table for what's coming up this weekend, let's get to the first of my 2 guests this week. He is Jeff Lynn, the high school football coach at Roswell. He just recently won his 100th game as head coach of the Coyotes. Roswell is 5-2 and ranked number 2 in the state in Class 5A behind Artesia. Here is my chat with Coach Lynn. Okay, as promised, the first of my 2 guests today, he is Jeff Lynn, the head football coach at Roswell High School. Roswell, as I've already noted, playing host to Artesia on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Number 1 Artesia, number 2 Roswell. Always such a great rivalry. Jeff, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Hi, James.
Thanks for joining me. Let's talk first about Friday night. I've always wondered this, and I don't think I've ever asked any Roswell coach this. What is the difference if you're a Roswell Coyote? What is the difference between Artesia week and Goddard week, if there is one?
No, there's a difference. I mean, I think Artesia, I was telling somebody else that we both have other rivals. Like Artesia has Carlsbad, we have Goddard, and I think on some level, those rivalries go deeper. Roswell Artesia hasn't been a rivalry very long. When I first got to Roswell, we weren't very good, and so nobody, Artesia didn't take us very serious. So it's not as deep. Right now it's and I don't think it's as intense. I mean, Goddard, Roswell, I'm sure the guys at Cleveland and Rio Rancho will tell you the same thing. When you live in the same town, that's a different level of intensity. As far as the Artesia Roswell, I mean, it's been good. I mean, I think it's a healthy rivalry. I don't think either side really, it turns it into something that's nasty. I think it's a healthy rivalry, and I think both teams. Like I told somebody the other day, like it's not a whole lot of fun if Roswell doesn't have Artesia at this moment in time, and it's not a whole lot of fun if Artesia doesn't have Roswell. I mean, we kind of need this rivalry,
right?
Because it's been good for both of us. I think it's pushed both of us, and I think we're both better because of it. So there is a different intensity to it, though.
And I think I was asking this question because Roswell and Artesia, I'm pretty sure about this. This is the oldest high school football rivalry in New Mexico. I think it dates back to early 1900s. I think I believe Artesia and Roswell have been playing each other longer than any two schools, which is why I was curious about how this particular rivalry week shapes up as opposed to the last week of the season, as you said, when you play Goddard, a school that didn't come in to start playing football until decades after Roswell opened. So that's why I was kind of curious about that. So let's talk about Friday night. You guys had a couple of early losses, one to Alamogordo, one to Hobbs, but you guys have got some momentum going. You've won 4 in a row and beaten a couple of good teams along the way, like Gadsden, like Lovington. So just tell me, you've had a few days now, and actually you're coming off your bye week, so you've had quite a few days now to look at film on Artesia. What do you see when you look at this particular Artesia group?
I think this may be the most talented team I've seen Artesia have. They're starting 22 seniors. I mean, that's almost unheard of. And they're really gifted. I mean, they're really gifted. Their slot receivers are fast. They've got some outside receivers that are big. The running back is as good a running back as there is in the state. The quarterback is good.
And we're talking about Bryce Parra. Yeah.
Yeah. He's 11. I don't look at that, but so yeah, he's really good. And then the secondary is really, really good. I mean, they're all long kids. They're all, they've got a corner in there that's 6'2". I think he's a college level player. And they've got some other kids in the secondary. Their fronts are good. Like I said, I think this is the most talented Artesia team that I've seen since I've been here. So they're really good, and we got our hands full.
So let's talk about your group for a couple of minutes. You opened the year with a really strong win over Los Lunas, and then there was a couple of losses in there, one on the road to Alamogordo and another to a really good Hobbs team that just beat Centennial the other day. So you've got some momentum built now, and when you and I talked back in August before the season, and this is the case for so many schools, look, there were a lot of new pieces to plug in, both on offense and defense. Tell me how it has been coming along, and I think I don't have the notes of our previous conversation right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure you said it may take us a little bit of time before we begin to find our rhythm and find our feet under us. Has that been the case?
Yeah, that's been the case. I mean, we graduated 31 seniors last year. We had 8 kids sign scholarships to play college football. And so you're not just replacing, I mean, it's tough to replace those kids. And so then you plug and play, and you think kids can do certain things, and then you find out they can or they can't. And, I think offensive football is really, the best offensive schemes are the ones that can adjust to the quarterback. Last year we had a runner, and this year, Luke's more of a thrower, and so we've had to make some adjustments there. Defensively, we were really talented along the defensive front, and it was, all four of those kids are college players, and we've had to adjust to that, and so it just took us a while. I think we had the big win against Los Lunas, and I think we went into Alamogordo maybe feeling ourselves a little bit, thinking we were a little bit better than we were. And Alamogordo played really well, give them credit. And then Hobbs is really talented. I mean, like Hobbs is really talented. I really felt like we played well that night. I think we were a little bit outmanned in that game. And since then, we've kind of found our groove. We've played well the last. I really feel like we've played well. Against Deming and then against Gadsden. I was really happy with the way we played against Gadsden. So I think we found our groove. I think we found what we can and can't do. And so we'll play to our strengths and try to minimize our weaknesses and from this point on and really just try to get better. So
let's talk about the defensive side of the ball specifically. This group of yours was just superior on the defensive side last year. You were hit by a few key graduating players, of course, as you said, 31 seniors, so inevitable that you wouldn't be impacted by graduation. But let's talk about the defensive side of things and how that side of the ball has come along in particular.
yeah, they've done a good job. Like I think like we're not near as talented up front, but those kids play hard and they get after it. I think we've got some talented linebackers. I really like the way Jonathan Ellis and Cannon Ramage and Joaquin Bolaños are playing. Probably some really good linebackers there. And then I'm really happy with the way our corners are playing and our safeties. Again, we're not as talented as we were last year, but I really feel like our two corners are probably as good as we've had recently. Our free safety's doing a good job, and then we're playing team defense. I mean, they do a good job of complementing each other, and they do a good job of doing their job. And I've been really happy with the way those kids have played. So, but the thing is like we've played, we've played predominantly run teams. Up to this point. I mean, they run the ball more than they throw it. Now we're flipping that a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see how we handle, 70% pass and 30% run Friday night. I think that'll be interesting. So looking forward to it, and we'll find out more about how we are defensively Friday night.
You said an interesting thing a second ago, and I wanted to backtrack just for a second. We were talking about this 4-game winning streak that you're on now, and you said something to the effect of, we're figuring out what we can and cannot do. And I'm wondering, I don't think I've ever heard it put quite that way, but I suppose even for a veteran coach, it does take a bit of time, even into the second half of a season, before you get an understanding of what your players' capabilities are. Their capabilities you think they have in the offseason, and you look at a group and you say, yeah, they can do this, they can do that. And then when we get into the season, that shifts and you think, well, we're not doing this as well as I thought we could. We're doing this better than I thought we could. And even for a veteran coach, I imagine it takes some time. I mean, you got to give them a few weeks to get an understanding of varsity speed, playing under pressure as a defending state champion, which you guys are. It does, I imagine, and maybe even frustratingly so, take a bit of time to find that groove that all coaches want to find, especially as we get into October.
Yeah, and most of these kids coming in this year, their experience was JV football. And, they may have played on some special teams and those type of things on the varsity, but you look at what they're able to do in the JV, and then, you put that together, and sometimes sometimes what you think you can do, you can't. And then sometimes what, you think's out, they can't do, they can. And so again, it takes us a little bit. We don't have preseason games like they have in the NFL. The NMA has given us spring ball, so that helps a little bit. But, the first 3 or 4 games, in our program, it's a filling out process. And some teams can blitz, some teams can't. Some teams are better at running the football, and some teams are better. You got to figure those things out under the Friday night lights. And so I think we're there now. I think we have a good understanding of this team.
So you were talking about the Gadsden game a second ago. You beat Gadsden. If I'm not mistaken, the score was 33-15. And that was your 100th career win with Roswell. Do you attach a lot of significance to those kind of numerical milestones?
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, you know, it's I've had a lot of good players at Roswell, and I've had a lot of good assistant coaches, and I've had good administration here that values football. And like, I'm recognized for my 100th win, but really that's I've got guys that have been with me since day one for 13 years. You know, Derrick Gomez, my dad, Tim Fuller, our freshman coach, has been with me since day one, and those guys have been. You know, it's more about those guys and the players than it is necessarily about me. But it is significant. I mean, like it's a. I'm proud of that. That's something that I'm proud of. I mean, there's not a lot of coaches that have longevity and can be consistent like that. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the program that we've built. When we got to Roswell, Roswell was not good. Roswell was everybody's homecoming, and this thing has been built. And you're dang right, I'm proud of 100 of those wins. That's a huge accomplishment for our program and our community and our administration and our players and our assistant coaches. I get the notoriety, but I'm proud of the work that all those people have done.
You were referencing your dad, who was, of course, a longtime coach here in New Mexico. Was that what inspired you to be a coach? Was it something else?
I say that all the time. Like I think people gravitate to what they know. I mean, doctors' kids become doctors, and lawyers' kids become lawyers. I think you don't live with somebody for 18 years of your life and don't pick up on their morals and their work ethic and what they do. So I think, I think that, I think he inspired me. I don't think my plan going to college was to be a coach, but I got done playing, and I love the game. And Coach Elliott down at Eastern New Mexico, he offered me a GA job, and from that point on, I was all in. So I think my dad had something to do with that. I think Bud Elliott had something to do with that. I think Dwight Burns, like all these guys, nobody really knows anymore, but they had a big impact on me. And
What
uh,
I think Coach Burns was a longtime coach at NIMI. I might be wrong about that,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. He's a close friend. He's still here in Roswell, and we visit. Great man, and taught me a lot about the game. And I owe a lot to Dwight. So.
Okay. Well, awesome achievement on your 100th win. You were one of two coaches that week. Brandon back from La Cueva also got his 100th the same night as you, so we congratulate you on your 100th. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. I know you're getting ready for practice. Good luck on Friday against Artesia. And we will talk to you real soon.
Sure appreciate it, James. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for your time. That is Coach Lynn from Roswell High School, and we thank him for his time. Roswell plays Artesia at the Wool Bowl 7 o'clock on Friday. Okay, that was Jeff Lynn, the head coach at Roswell. I thank Jeff for hopping on. I don't get a chance to see him very often for all the obvious reasons, but what an environment it's going to be at Wool Bowl on Friday. And now here is the head coach of the number 1 ranked team in Class 5A. That would be Jeremy Maupin of the Artesia Bulldogs. Okay. Here we go with my second guest of the day. We were visiting with Coach Lynn from Roswell High a little while ago, and now here is Coach Jeremy Maupin from Artesia High School, coach of the number 1 ranked team in Class 5A, the Artesia Bulldogs. Jeremy, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Yes, sir.
You bet. You bet. We're going to start, of course, with this big game coming up on Friday. Your Bulldogs will be heading up the road to Wool Bowl to play Roswell. You're ranked number 1, Roswell ranked number 2. Of course, these two teams have played for the last 2 state titles. So both of you coming out of your bye week. So both of you had plenty of time to kind of see all the film you could want on the other. So I asked Coach Lynn this, and I'll ask you this as well. So now, having had about 10 days as we talk now, it's Wednesday. Having had about 10 days now to look and break down Roswell, tell me what you see in this Roswell team.
Yeah, I mean they're good. They've gotten better every single week. I think that's the thing that you notice. I think Coach Lynn does a really good job with those guys. They're fast. They move well to the ball. Their skill guys are pretty good on defense. They move around well. Coach Lynn's son's playing quarterback. He's a big. Got a big arm, and he's a big kid that moves well, and he'll run when he needs to, and has several targets to get to. They played 3 different guys at running back, and all 3 of them are fast and shifty, and their O-line's really the strength they had coming back from this last season. So just overall, really solid team, and one of the better teams we played this year.
So look, this team defensively, Roswell, they were really good on defense last year. They were hit pretty hard by graduation on both sides of the ball, but that defense in particular was really stingy. You played them twice. You played them in the regular season, of course, and then played them in the state championship game. What do you see on that side of the ball specifically about Roswell?
Yeah, I mean, like last year, their whole D line, I think, is playing college football right now. Those guys were really special, but one of them was hurt, so we played their defensive end. He's number 15. I can't think of his name here, but he's a good, tall, lanky kid that plays really well there. Their two linebackers fly around, but really that back end, number 3, he played a little corner against us last year, but he moves well. He's leading their team in interceptions. And he really follows the eyes of the quarterback and can move around the field really well on the back end. Their two corners both had several interceptions, and so they move well. It's definitely a different group than last year, but it's still a really solid defense.
So let's talk about the flip side of it now. So you come in with your offense, and I will tell you that Coach Lynn said that he felt like this is the most talented Artesia team he's ever played. So with that in mind, you guys on the offensive side of the ball, 2 players stand out. Number 1 is your quarterback, Derrick Warren, who I believe has 17 touchdowns against just 3 picks, I believe. And then, of course, Bryce Parra taking over that role that Frankie Galindo filled so well before he graduated. And Bryce has been over 700 yards, I think, rushing, gets involved in the passing game too, which is something the Artesia offense does as well as anyone, which is getting its running backs involved in the pass game. So let's start with Derrick and the kind of season he's had. His numbers are great. You guys have already played a very large number of very good teams like Centennial, who's the only team that beat you, teams like Gadsden, teams like Lovington. So let's start with him and his progression and his maturation process through the course of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to he got thrown in the fire when Isaac Casadas got hurt at halftime, against Roswell High in the state championship. And Derrick came in and played quarterback the whole second half. And that was kind of his first varsity role as you throw him in the state championship against that really good defense. And I thought right then you could see the maturity in him. Just this off season and this summer, he's just fantastic job. He's a great leader. He's a great young man. Student of the game, smart, and so we're not surprised by his play so far. He's shown that to us over his whole career. It's just now he's the senior and he's earned the right to have his time as a quarterback, and so everything kind of starts with him, and he does a great job for us.
And let's switch to Bryce Parra, who's been really sensational for you from the start, and sort of same question about how he has produced and just how valuable an asset he has been in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's lightning in a bottle. I mean, we played him last year at wideout because we knew we had to get him on the field, and by the end of the year, we were in a lot of 2-back set, which is kind of not the Artesia way or whatever you want to call it, but he was just so good with the ball in his hands. We had to do it, so we knew he was coming into a big year. I think the only game he's missed this year was the Centennial game. And that was, when you look at that Centennial game, we were pretty pass heavy that game. And that tells you, how balanced we are when he's in there, and how that kind of changes the game plan when he's not. And he allows us, we think we're at our best when we're as close to 50-50 throwing and running as possible. And with him, you can't run a light box against him. He's just too good in space and too good, hitting a hole fast. And so it's forced some teams to play us a little bit differently. And that's opened up something in the passing game as well.
I have to confess, I did not know he missed the Centennial game. He's fully healthy? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. He came back the next week. He just had a little tweak that week in practice. And so we had to hold him out that game, but he came back and played a little bit the next game. He's just gotten stronger since then.
Right. So let's talk about this district for a second. It's shaping up similar, at least at the top, with Artesia and Roswell at the top. And of course, the winner of the Friday night game up in Roswell this week will be in first place and have the inside track to win the regular season, of course, and be the top seed for state. So there's a lot on the line here, but what has been your observation about the rest of the district? My observation from afar, without having seen any of these teams, is we still have most of the good teams in Class 5A are in that district. But I would say, just looking at it from a distance, we don't have quite the same depth. Goddard is better than they were last year. Gadsden has maybe fallen off a little bit. Mayfield's still an X factor, and Deming too. What has been your observation about the overall quality of depth among the teams in this district?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it's hard. I don't know the northern district as well, but I mean, like our district, as far as our district goes, I mean, every week we tell our guys there's a good chance we're going to play this team again, and that's kind of where we are with, like you said, Deming. I mean, Lovington, was within. They had two chances to win to beat Roswell. I mean, they were right there at the end of that game. They weren't fully healthy when we played them. Their quarterback got hurt on one of the first plays and ended up not playing the second half. Deming's running back's been hurt the last several weeks. I think he got hurt against us, so he didn't play against Roswell or Gadsden or some of those teams that they played there. Not Gadsden, but Lovington. So he's a difference maker for them. Same with Gadsden. I think they have arguably one of the best defensive ends in the state, and he got hurt their first game, and he hasn't played in several weeks. He's a really good football player. So I think there's just been some injuries that make it probably look like it's not as competitive, but I think everybody was on bye this week. And so I think you're going to see the best of everybody coming in this week off the bye and kind of see the best of everybody that everybody has.
I'm particularly interested about Goddard. Look, they were a 2-win team last year and still got to state, actually, just because the quality of Goddard's schedule was so good. They weren't, as you well know, they weren't an ordinary 2-8 team, not at all. But Coach Bolanos at Goddard has done a great job, and they seem to be much more competitive this year. And I know you haven't played them yet, but what can you tell me about the progress that you've seen from Goddard?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us that really know Art know he was going to get that thing turned around. He's a great coach. He's a great mentor, great guy, and they have two really, really, really good receivers. And from what I've seen, one of them's been hurt even, but they have two legit threats on the outside. They're throwing the ball a little bit more than Goddard has in the past, and they have two quarterbacks that can sling it around a little bit. But the film that I've seen on them, they're playing way more confident. They're flying to the ball. They're hitting people in the mouth. I mean, it's kind of getting back to that, that tough, just Goddard team that you got to prepare for. And so, I think Art's doing a great job over there.
I was talking rivalries with Coach Lynn, and I wanted to pursue this with you a little bit. Artesia has, I think, 4 or 5 schools on its schedule that are all great rivals. Lovington, Hobbs, Goddard, Roswell, and of course, Carlsbad. You guys you face all these teams pretty regularly. What sets any one of these weeks apart from the rest? Carlsbad usually comes very early in the season. Often it's the season opener. The Yeti County War is one of the longest standing rivalry games that New Mexico has. Artesia Goddard used to be the main rival for Artesia coming out of Roswell. And then Coach Lynn came in, and now it's probably more of a Roswell Artesia thing. Artesia and Lovington have had an unbelievable rivalry. And even though Hobbs isn't in the same class, Hobbs is right down the road, and you play them, and it's usually a lot of fireworks there. So how do you deal with all these different rivalry games? Because they're all significant and they're all meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, we love it. I mean, we want to play good football teams. That we try to make our, out of district schedule. We added Centennial this year, but we know it's always going to be 2 6A teams in Carlsbad and Hobbs. And we don't really buy into the rivalry thing, and we don't talk about it or anything. It's more of like our fans and the fan base, but it's definitely, to us, it's just really good opponents that we get to go play good football against. And it seems like even, if Carlsbad's having an off year, they play us tight. If Hobbs having an off year, they play us tight. We know what, the last several years, obviously, Coach Lynn and I have played against each other a lot, and we were talking about it last night. When I played football here, Roswell, in all honesty, wasn't very good. And, Goddard was the big rival. It was kind of a big week when you played Goddard at that time. And now it's kind of flip-flopped. But Art's doing a good job of kind of bringing that back. And so it just makes it where every week we feel like we got a big target on our backs and we got to play good football.
Okay, so how early in the day on Friday will Artesia's fans start to make their way up to Wool Bowl in Roswell? It's only 40 miles. It's only about a 35-minute drive. How early in the day will your fans start to make their way up to 85?
I imagine people are going to probably get in line around, 4:30 at the gates. Coach Cooper just sent me, Britt just sent me some information I sent out to our fans. The nice thing about the Wool Bowl is it's completely separate. There's 4 gates, and so you can separate it, so it's not as hard to get in, but
Right.
we get that whole side on that side, and so I imagine people will get there pretty early and start trying to get good seats.
One of my favorite things, and a lot of people don't know this, but one of my favorite, I don't even know if we would call it a tradition, but one of my favorite things about Artesia football is quite frequently when Artesia goes on the road, and this is probably specific in the playoffs, when it gets darker earlier, is the way fans often are waiting for the team bus in Artesia, and they kind of line the streets. I'm not saying it's like a full-blown city parade, but I've seen so much video over the years, Artesia fans lined up, just waiting for the bus to come back into the city limits. I'm always impressed by this, and I'm wondering, as the head coach, do you ever become desensitized to this, or does that kind of support still impress you, that fans, they can't get enough and they want to show their love in as many different ways as they can?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's what makes this place so special. I mean, we sell out a ton of, home games and things, but like we added several season tickets this year, and now I'm kind of on the admin side of it as the AD here in Artesia now. And we sold out for the first time this year every single reserve seat ticket that we had at football. You leave little pockets here and there or singles. Somebody came in and bought all the singles at the end of the year just so they could make sure they had their family had seats, even though they're not sitting by each other, and so yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot and just how grateful and thankful we are. I mean, we got guys that come watch every single day at practice. I have the quarterback club that I meet with every Tuesday. That's just men of the community that basically adopt a couple football players and take them out to eat, or take them, just kind of check in on them throughout the week. We call them quarterback dads. That's, every time. I mean, no, it's not a knock on Los Lunas, but it was hard to get people to come to be on the, in the booster club. There was about 10, 15 of us in there, and here, every booster meeting I have, there's, 30 people, and then I have quarterback dad, and there's 40 or 50 guys in there, Mondays and Tuesday nights. And then, yeah, every time we're leaving for a big road game or something, there's banners and there's the bands out there playing, and it's just a really, really special place. So no, we definitely don't get desensitized to it, because we talk about it all the time, how lucky we are. And it's nice. Several of us coaches played here in Artesia, so we see, but we have several coaches that this is all new to them. And so every time it happens, they're just in awe of, like, it doesn't happen very many places. So it's very special.
I know. I've been able to experience it as a reporter, quite a number of times since I started in this job. I always tell people, look, if you're going to go see a high school football game, do what you can to go see one in Artesia first. Before you go anywhere else, you should go experience a Friday night in Artesia, where the game environment is like nothing you get anywhere else. I mean, every school has its own way of approaching a home game, whether it's an opening night or a homecoming game or a big district game that might decide a district championship. Every school has its own different way of approaching it, but I've always loved and valued and had such an appreciation for the way Artesia approaches football, and just the sense of community, which is different in Artesia, in my opinion, than just about anywhere else. Actually, I would say definitely than anywhere else.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's truly the shut the town down on Friday night, and it's just my dad had a local business here for a long time, and I mean, there's no way he would be open on a Friday night. I mean, it's not even it wasn't even a thought process. I mean, it's just, I mean, we're moving. We have some people get mad here, but we play on Halloween night. The city literally moved Halloween in Artesia to November 1st instead of October 31st. because so many people go to the
Really?
football game. Yeah, so
Really?
that's
Wow.
every time it falls on a Friday night, our city votes to officially move Halloween trick or treat night to the next night. And
I don't have your schedule right in front of me. So who are you playing on Halloween night?
we play Mayfield.
Mayfield, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that's awesome. I mean, how many towns would even have the foresight to even think about doing that, let alone to actually put it into motion and get the commitment from the town or city or community that you're in? Just another reason to be impressed by everything. Well, Jeremy, listen, I'll go ahead and cut you loose. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to visit with me today. Good luck on Friday night. Once again, it's number 1 Artesia, 6-1, traveling up the road to Roswell, ranked number 2. Roswell's 5-2, 7:00 on Friday night. I've had a chance to cover a couple of Roswell Artesia games in my career, including one at Wool Bowl 2 years ago. These games are so much fun to attend. I wish I had a chance to see them more often, but good luck on Friday. Stay healthy, and thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Yodice, for having me on.
You betcha. That's Jeremy Maupin. Okay, that was Jeremy Maupin. I thank Jeremy for his time as well. I'm glad we were able to get both of the head coaches from the top 2 teams in 5A on the podcast this week. And, of course, we'll have more guests coming up next week and going forward for the rest of the regular season and into the postseason. That's going to wrap things up for me this week. I thank you for joining. The podcast is so much fun for me to do, and it's been awesome this year to bring in so many different guests from around the state. I think that's added a really wonderful element to everything that we're doing. So I appreciate all the players and coaches who have taken time to join me on the podcast. One note that is non-football related that I want to get to before I close it out today, the Albuquerque Academy Extravaganza is by far the most important of the regular season cross-country meets. It's going to be held at Albuquerque Academy all day Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. You've got almost 1,400 athletes across 8 races. We start at 9 o'clock, and then the last race is at 2:40. I'm going to be there all day Saturday, which is why I'm not going to get to much football in person on Saturday. The Class 5A girls, Gianna Raymer's division, they finish the day at 2:40 p.m. So we've got Class 1A, 2A combined, and then 3A, 4A, and 5A, all going to have boys and girls races. It's considered the big pre-state race because Academy also hosts the state meet coming up 3 weeks after this meet. So all of the top runners in the state, all the top boys, all the top girls, barring injury, are going to be here for this meet. It's a big meet. I love covering cross country. It's a sport that I never used to like, but I've come to really appreciate and even love. It has such a sense of community that's different from any other sport that I cover. So if you enjoy watching Cross Country Runners, Academy is the place to be Saturday. I'll recap that next week. But, of course, next week we'll talk a whole lot of football. We'll recap some of the top games from this week, including Rio Rancho, Volcano Vista, and, of course, Artesia Roswell. And we'll talk about some of the big games coming up in Week 10. I can't believe we're into Week 9 already. So I thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the weekend. Get out and watch some football. And I will see you next week.